All right. Once again, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is going to be a special live training series webinar. We'll go ahead and kick things off. It's just going to be a little bit different than before, but we're really excited and we'll think y'all really like it here. So just for some quick introductions, my name is Alec and I'm a technical account manager here at Accelo. I've been with Accelo for a little over a year now and I'm part of our customer success team. And yeah, like I said, I'm really looking forward to be co-hosting another one of these webinars, which we definitely know will contain some really important content for all of our clients here today. And today I'm joined by Geoff McQueen, who is our CEO and co-founder. So Jeff's going to be presenting this webinar. So let's go ahead and give him a warm welcome. How are we doing today, Jeff?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for the welcome, Alex. So excited to see everyone coming in from so many different parts of the world. Hopefully, it looks like most folks, South Africans, hopefully you're staying warm as winter comes in. And for everyone else, hope you're enjoying the spring and the summer that's on its way. So great stuff.
All right, good deal. So yeah, like I mentioned, today's session is going to be a little bit different from previous sessions. So instead of diving into one specific part of the product, we're going to be covering a lot of tips and tricks to make your Accelo experience more productive across the entire product. So, whether you're someone who just needs to get their work done, or if you're the admin user for the entire system, we're really confident that you'll find a lot of value from today's sessions. And the topics that we're going to be covering today include, navigating, searching, finding what you need, utilizing and configuring your lists and views, then of course saving and sharing your views with others. And then at the end, we'll talk about, where you can go to get help and support when you really need it the most. And then on top of that, for folks curious about things like behind the scenes, Jeff's also going to share some insights into the new architecture that powers our new Accelo functionality, as well as shares how we've been able to improve system speed and performance by 25% in the last few months. So really looking forward to that as well. And then before we get started, just want to let y'all know if you have any questions along the way, please go ahead and add them into the Zoom chat function. We're going to try to answer all questions during that live Q&A at the end. But if we're not able to, don't worry because we'll respond to all questions via email after the session. Jeff, within the last 6 months to a year, we've seen a lot of change in the Accelo user interface, and we're just wondering, could you share some of the thought process behind the changes in the navigation and how this has been designed with the user's experience in mind?
Great, happy to. So about 8, 9 months ago, we upgraded the navigation in Accelo to change not just the way it looks, but the way it works. And I want to take a minute, whether you're a new user or someone who's been with us for a while, to just showcase a couple of things that I think could be some real time savers for people out there. So the first thing up here, which doesn't get as much use as it probably should, is, in my opinion at least, the best way to find what you need to, what you're looking for in Accelo. It's a search box. And this search box is actually powered by a search engine, which uses some cool ranking technology to work out what it thinks you're most likely to be looking for. So in this example, let's imagine in this example account, we're looking for Delta, the airline. So we can type in Delta, and then we can see that the first result to come back here is a company record. You can tell it's a company or client account because of the little kind of building icon in the middle of a big city. And then there's also other things as well, like content marketing. Odds are that retainer has something about Delta in the description, as well as it being against Delta, the company. We can also see that there's some other things as well, like a ticket here for the company. Billy Banks is one of the contacts, and all the way down into things that are individual activities as well. And we rank the activities lower than we do the company records when we're doing this kind of smart searching. Now, the smart searching also uses, if you've got multiple words, it's not just string manipulation, it's also looking at context. So think of this as like your own private Google for the information inside of your business when it comes to managing all of your client work, which is really what Accelo is all about, quote to cash, for managing that client work. Now, something else I want to mention is a kind of power user feature that if you know you're looking for a company called Delta, instead of going to the companies list on the left, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and then searching for that record, a much quicker way to do it is up in the top here to just start typing COM for companies and hit tab. And this is now going to limit or focus our search specifically on Delta, or sorry, whatever I search for, it's going to limit it specifically to records that are inside of the company database. You might have also noticed as well, before I started typing, that the system also gives me a list of recently viewed company records here. The idea being that if you know you're looking for a company, we try and make it easy for you to see that. Now, when we launched this new navigation, we took the search engine we already had and we supercharged it both from a technical and also a results perspective. So we made sure that we could return more values than we were before to maximize the chances that what you're looking for is what we show you and make it easy for you to get to it. We also implemented a few other things to make it easier for folks to be able to see what they're looking for. This feature I'm going to describe now wasn't actually new, but it's something that most folks don't know about because it's hard to communicate without making lots of noise and getting in the way in the product. But as a user on any screen, unless I'm typing into a field, I can just hit the / icon here, and you'll notice that my cursor, if you squint, you might need to squint, my cursor is now flashing up in the search box. So I've clicked away, there's no searching going on, I hit / and it's ready for me to search. So that way I can easily find the company, the work, whether it be a sale or a project or a ticket that I can do the work on and actually get straight into it. So I just wanted to emphasize the benefit and the power of that ability from a search perspective to be able to find what you're looking for. The other thing that I wanted to highlight, maybe more for new players, is the ability inside the Accelo interface in the top right here to really focus on the things that are about your account or your own individual experience. So things like your timesheet, your timers, the ability for you to log time. This is about what you do in the product under the time icon there, which is the clock. Then you've got tasks, primarily focused around your tasks you manage, active tasks for you, those sorts of things. Scheduling can be both yours as well as the broader scheduling dashboard. And the inbox icon here is both your individual inbox for any activities that you have not yet actioned or that you have emails you haven't replied to yet. And then the shared or request inboxes here, where you can have things like a support email address that many of your team members work through. Lastly, in the top right is your own user account, where you're able to do things like see, your preferences, be able to modify your account, your integrations and connections, etc. So that's the stuff across the top. The area where we made the most amount of change, though, was on the left-hand side. So on the left-hand side here, under, say, the company heading, what you're able to see is the company record, and you're able to see a number of columns. We have 4 columns represented for each of these. We have a concept called shared lists, which are going to be much more important for us to see in a minute. We'll take you through those, but they're basically the lists that are created and saved in Accelo and then shared between you and your various team members. There's also My List, which is really the ones that you have created that are private just to you. There is the recently viewed list of company records here. And then there's also favorited companies that you can favorite pretty much almost anything in the product, certainly companies, contacts, projects, retainers, tickets, etc. You can favorite anything is designed to be fairly reused or easily accessible. And in addition to this navigation here, we've also got shortcuts to features or screens that are relevant to where you are, but without sort of necessarily jumping off the page and getting in the way of what is for most people a function of just getting in and doing the work that they need to do. Now, what's also cool about this is when you choose one of these options here, you'll notice if you're eagle-eyed that the top navigation here, or the top, or I should say the top search input has just changed to be tickets. If you rename these modules, what you rename them will actually apply here as well throughout the product. Now, another thing I want to mention is that in this large area here, we're showing company-related lists and recently viewed and favorites. But if you wanted to think about contacts, you can click on that there and access the same thing for contacts, and then the same thing for assets. So it's quite powerful in that respect, that ability to really go through and see all of the different parts of Accelo, but without intimidating your users terribly much, because odds are you're going to be looking at lists of companies a lot more frequently than you're looking at lists of assets. So that's the overall navigation here. There's also an easy access link to our feedback section, which allows you to provide ideas, comments, and suggestions to the organization. And of course, right at the bottom here is the settings area. So hopefully, if we've done a good job with this navigation, it makes it easier for you and your team to quickly find the work that you want to go to. And the way that things used to work was basically you had no choice but to click on what was twice as many or 3 times as many icons on the left here. And when you did that, you would then get a list of every single record in the system, which took a fair amount of time. just to then go through and filter or select a subset of that information. Whereas now you can get it from the navigation directly and go straight to the list that you're interested in.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, I also like how there is still the expando thing at the bottom left because sometimes the pictures are hard to figure out what you're looking at.
That's
But
a
yeah, you
good
can always
reminder,
expand that
actually.
thing.
Yeah, I've got it running in sort of power user mode where I know what the icons mean, but I recommend for new players, especially having it in more of an expanded state so that you don't have to remember which icon means which. It starts to become second nature. And one thing actually I should have mentioned as well, Alec, is you can customize the colors of this to your heart's content. So this probably could do with being a little bit higher contrast, but maybe I'm just getting old. And so what you can do is go through in the settings area, if you're an administrator, and actually customize the color selection here, as well as the logo that's represented in the top left. It doesn't have to say Accelo. It probably should be your own company name. So a couple of things I forgot to mention, so thank you.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate the context there. So, moving forward now, we've recently launched customizable lists based on user feedback, really as a way to, give our users a better way to analyze and use their information stored within Accelo. And I know myself from, working firsthand with our customers, the first thing people really want to do is filter down the information to find what's most relevant to them. So with that being said, would you be able to take us through some of the improvements that have been made to filtering of the custom lists?
Yeah, great question. And this has been a major project for us. So the ability to look at lists of information that's core to your business, whether it be projects based on when they're due or if they're overdue, tickets based on their status, maybe they're a bit stale, sales based on when you hope that they're going to close, or which salesperson's working the account. These are all really common, relevant, important things for any business system. And the way that our interface used to work for this is you used to load up a screen, which would have a series of what we guessed were going to be your higher priority areas of filtering. So things that you might want to use more frequently were fixed in place and always shown on the screen. And then if you wanted to add something that was custom or was maybe something that was slightly secondary in importance, there was a more option, which then had a big long list. And that list got really long, I can tell you, as you started to really customize your Accelo account and had lots of custom fields. Now, the problems with that approach were quite a lot of real estate was taken up for those components, permanently sitting there across the screen, which wasn't great. The second problem with it was that as you were interacting with those and choosing to do things like filter based on certain statuses or who the salesperson is, or based on another custom field, every time you changed a single thing, the screen would reload. And I'm not going to lie, when we first built it, we thought that was pretty hot because it was fast and responsive. We're like, yeah, this is great. But honestly, as we started to use it more, and the feedback we got from our users using it more, was it had that feeling of, who moved my cheese? Like, I'm not ready yet. I know what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to filter by these statuses for these salespeople of this particular type of sale. Like, stop refreshing halfway through. Let me actually put my recipe together and then do your work. And so what we did was we took that feedback on board, decided to create as much real estate as we could for people to see their own information that they're trying to work with, not our user interface. And what we did was we put it together under this type of interface. So under the filters option, which is the default one when you load this configure interface up, you can now see a list of the filters down the left-hand side here. And that's actually a searchable list. So if I wanted to see the division, I could search for that without having to scroll and see what's there. Now, admittedly, the list that I have from a scrolling point of view on the right here is not too terribly long, but it gets longer and longer as you add more custom fields because you've got the ability to have more data that you want to filter across. And the other thing we'll notice when in a minute we'll go through and we'll actually have a look on the tickets list for this, you'll see as well that what we've done with these filters is made it easier than ever to be able to look at the relationships of the things you're looking at. It'll make more sense when I demonstrate it for you. But the upshot of that is that there's quite a lot more going on that filter list. So what we're able to do is say, okay, I've got a, let's say I wanted to filter this by, we've got status here, and potentially I want to have it as last contact date. And so then I want to say it's going to be in the last 1 year. This is dummy data, so it's going to be pretty lightweight in terms of those interactions. You'll notice nothing in the background has changed yet, because now we have this apply changes button. And when we press this, then it will refresh. And when I press it, I want you to just pay a slight bit of attention to how quickly it actually does its refreshing. Because what's happened now is it's gone through all of that data, and in the time it took me to probably say the word now, has completely reloaded all of that information. If you compare that to the old list screens, we found in our test that it's at least 10 times faster. Now, I shouldn't say at least. I'm sure there are some situations where you already started with a really, really small list, and so it didn't take as, the benefits of our new architecture, which I'll talk about later, maybe aren't as clear for already small lists. But once you get a little bit of data in here, this 10x speed improvement for fetching all the information on the back end is just so incredibly powerful. And given when our users have given us feedback and said, oh, we really wish the product could be better in this or this way, and that feedback is related often to things like performance and speed because they have a lot of information in the system, then we really took that to heart and wanted to do whatever we could to make the performance of this as quickly as we could. Now, this particular list, I'm not going to save it, so I'll just hit reset. That's resetting back to the standard dropdown here for a save list, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But what I wanted to do is quickly show you one of the other great things that we've been able to achieve with this filtering. So what you're able to do is go through, and in this case, I'll do see all tickets. And what I'm going to show you under the configure option up here in the top right is I'm going to show you how you can actually bring filter criteria in, which is relevant not just to the ticket, but what the ticket is against. So I can go to configure. I can then see not just the information about the ticket itself, like assignees and priorities and tags and team members. I've got a bunch of dates, sure. Bunch of progressions, sure. I've now got financials. Pretty helpful when you think about it. Accelo is a product for doing client work. You want to get paid for that work. So being able to not just do support or client service delivery for all love and no money, now you're actually able to do it for love and money because all this financial information is built into the application, which is really helpful. You can see other things as well, like some of these custom fields. And then what's cool is you can actually start to look at related things like, does the ticket have any active tasks on it? Yes, it does. Okay, I want to find only the ones that have an active task, please. I'm going to take that off for now. But what I wanted to also draw your attention to is these related company filter criteria or fields. Because what's great is even though we're looking at a list of tickets here, Accelo is an incredibly relational product that knows that those tickets relate back to a client. So the ability for you to actually filter your ticket list based on client criteria, which could be things like the division that the client record is in or some other field, is just super powerful. And we're continuing to add more to this on an ongoing basis from an engineering perspective. So that ability to filter, search for what you want from what is a pretty big long list here, and then being able to quickly use those and run them all at once is just such a helpful thing that we put a lot of thought and energy into. The last comment I'll make is we also have the ability to do quick inline searching for many of the fields. There's not the ability to do the sorting, I should say, not searching, sorting. There's not the ability to do sorting for some custom fields because of the way that their relationships work onto that data because they often don't exist, they're optional. But for anything that is actually tied on to the core object itself, then you're able to sort by almost all of those scenarios. And if we're not sorting by a field today and you're like, I'd really love to be able to see that, that's a perfect example of coming down here into the ideas forum, clicking on feedback and saying, hey, it's really important for me to be able to sort by X. So really good stuff there.
All right. Thanks for that, Geoff. Yeah, I know the filters are definitely going to save everyone a lot of time in finding what's most relevant to them. And yeah, really good stuff there. The company filters are really clutch. Like those a lot. So along with the filters, we've also introduced columns, which can be used to display, any piece of information within the view of the list. Can you give us some tips on the best ways to use columns and customize those?
Yeah, great question. So at its heart, this project was really about giving our clients control to see their own data. The way that the list screens, the classic lists as we call them in the navigation, and you can still get to them for the time being, those guys were more heavily designed, but they weren't flexible. You could not choose the columns that you wanted to see. And so a big part of this project was actually giving the power to our clients to see their own information in the way that they needed to see. So what we're able to do here is go in and say, right, I want to now look also under the configure box, but now I'm going to choose this guy here for columns. And in this case, I've now got the ability to load up what is, if you add them all up across the entire product, it's literally hundreds, almost thousands of these things, depending on how many custom fields you have. Could be over 1,000. So you've got the ability to pull in so many different columns from this list of options here. And if you want to introduce one, you can say, okay, when was the ticket? Who was the ticket opened by? We can introduce another option like how much total time has been logged. We can look at details around billing or service level agreements, for example, if that's a custom field in this case. And once you've chosen what those fields are, you can also change the order. So you might say, you know what, I want to make SLA something much closer to the left-hand side, please. And I might not care about the ticket ID. Thank you very much. I've got the title. I can see who the client is. Like, I don't need to use ticket IDs. And so what you're able to do is change all of these options here. And then again, just like under the filters option where you get things the way you want it, and then you apply changes and it loads quickly, the same thing occurs here. What's cool about this as well is that those options, those columns, you're actually able to then save those as a list. So not only am I choosing to reorder and put things closer to the front if I want to, but I can also now save this as a view. So that's really helpful. Now, some folks might be looking at this and going, oh, this is great, but I really miss some of the stuff in my old list that had maybe a little bit more interactivity or a little bit more eye candy. And the good news is we're working on bringing more of those things back into the product. We just realized that with so much performance improvement available to our users, we really didn't want to hold back longer on giving them these screens while we continue to work on some of those areas that were visually appealing and nice to have, but not something that we had finished the engineering of. So we really wanted to get it into our customers' hands sooner rather than later. Examples of the things we're still working on are these options here for statuses, being able to click on this just like you did in the older screens and see what statuses you can jump to and start the process of jumping to the statuses there. Other areas, not as relevant on this screen here, but things like flood bars for budget usage. So being able to just scan down a page and see whether it's lots of green or not too much green, so your budget hasn't been used, or maybe a fair bit of red, so you know you're well over budget, without having to also think about, you know, comparing numbers to each other. So they're the sorts of things we're still continuing to work on. We definitely did have to make a few of those initial compromises from a visual design as well as functionality perspective with some of that. I think of it as the really nice to have colorful attributes. And the reason we had to make those compromises was really, if we wanted to let our customers load any column at all, we had to put our energy into allowing lots of columns, as opposed to what we had in the past, which was a defined small number of columns that we could control and you know, display just the way we wanted to. So that's really the difference in what we've been able to achieve with those custom columns. And just like the filters, how you've got that ability to mash together multiple objects, and it actually stands out even more on our task list here. So you come across to your task list and go, okay, I want to look at my columns now. I mean, there's just so many of them here. Company columns, other related object columns. I can bring in the project's title. I can bring in sale titles. I can bring in all sorts of stuff here in terms of these columns to really customize what I want to see and make it easy for me and my team to do our work together.
Okay. Yeah, the columns are really nice, especially compared to the old classic list. You had to like export them to kind of see those custom fields and stuff like that. These are really nice. You can have as many or as little as you'd like to, drag them around. Definitely some good stuff. So yeah, now, or actually, sorry, before I continue, and just a little quick tidbit of information, even if you did want to export your list data, even though it's really nice in front of your face, you can select the export button, which Geoff will show you right now, and that will result in a customized CSV file complete with all the columns and filters already applied for you.
And it's a really good point. You know, what we saw before, Alec, was when we didn't give people the option to choose their columns, people did a lot of exporting, which is frankly annoying, because then you got a file, you got to open the file, and then you got to remove the columns you don't want just to keep the ones that you do want. But you're like, God damn, why don't you just let me add them to the interface? So now that folks are adding columns completely to the interface, there's a lot less need for exporting. But if you do want to, you just click on that button. And what's great is there's no risk of timeouts like there was in the older screens if you happen to be exporting tens or hundreds of thousands of rows. Now what happens is you hit export, the system says, cool, leave it with me. I'm going to do this in the back end. I'm going to use queuing technology to do that job. I'm going to use, a little bit of inside baseball here, the, sort of engine we built specifically to build the exports and to send them out via email, all sorts of magic things that we've done there, and then delivering them to you. And our team internally have a dashboard they watch, which is the amount of time it takes between you hitting that export button and the email being sent to you. Because we know that there's few things worse than sitting around and waiting for those sorts of things to occur. So it's really, really, sort of powerful what the team has done. And as I mentioned, we're not finished. We're not done. There's a lot more from a UI perspective, as well as other attributes like additional columns that we maybe haven't exposed yet, or haven't exposed in a way that we're, sort of finished with yet. And so, as mentioned, using this light bulb icon down here for feedback is the best way to share with us. And what's great is when you do that, you're doing it in an open shared environment, but it's only open and shared to other Accelo users. And other Accelo users, as they're putting through their suggestions, can see yours and vote on yours as well. It then ties directly into our own backlog processes, and our product team use it religiously, so that then as we're working on things, you can get the heads up and see what's coming down the pipeline.
All right, sounds good. So now that we can customize the columns and filter the information so that we can easily find, what we need, how can we then save these searches and share the views with our team for quick access?
Great question. So it's great to be able to do all that configuring, but if you had to do that every time you wanted to use the same thing over and over again, I can see you getting pretty unhappy. That wouldn't be a beneficial thing. So what we've got here is the ability to save this, and I actually started from a default list like open tickets. So I'm going to now do save as new. And I'll just call this one, I can't remember what I filtered this by, but tickets for, oh geez, typos over for Alec. And I can put in a description. Here you go, man. Geez, I'm really having a hard day with typing today. And when I do that, I can hit share with team. What happens now is I'm saving this list, so it'll be available persistently. It'll be available not just for Alec. I probably shouldn't have said that. It's not just permission for him, but anyone in my team can now access that list subject to their own permissions. If they don't permission to view tickets, or they can't view tickets unless they're assigned to them, then the system applies that logic as well. But under the tickets area now, what we'll see is under the shared list, we've got tickets for Alec. And what's also cool is I've actually got a URL here with this really long and cryptic unique identifier that I can copy and paste that and send it across to him in an email or an instant message or whatever else I feel like, to say, hey, here's that list you're looking for, which makes it super, super valuable. You may also notice as well that when I did, just before I saved that list, I actually saved what the ordering was going to be. So in this case, I did it by company name, but you could do it based on a submitted date or something else. And that was remembered as well with what I saved. So if ordering is important to you, you can change the ordering and then hit save. The save button's gone away now because I haven't made any changes. And that'll be part of what your saved list looks like as well.
Perfect. Very useful. So Geoff, improving the speed, power, and the performance of Accelo is critical for the experience of all of our users. And I know internally this has been a massive priority for our engineering team. So with that being said, can you share some of the work that has been done in this area?
Yeah, so a little bit of behind the scenes of what we did with this project. It wasn't a case of just, hey, let's have some new interfaces and run some queries and everything will be happy. We actually took the opportunity to stop, reflect, look at where our bottlenecks have been technically, look at what we wanted to achieve technically, not just with this project, but what we wanted to build upon it. And we realized that we needed to make bigger changes and to make a bigger investment in our platform, in performance and in growth, than just changing the interface for lists to be able to give you the ability to customize your columns. So what we actually did was we embarked on a major initiative that took us the better part of 18 months from beginning of research, technical validation and experimentation through to delivery of what we internally call custom lists, but you can think of as just the new flexible list screens. What we did was we decided to use React as our front-end JavaScript framework. It's a library framework. There's a few ways to describe it, but basically it's a way to build our application for what you see in this metaphor here of the iceberg being the bit above the waterline. So all the stuff you see on the screen, all the things you interact with, we basically have built that, as well as our new navigation, I might add, on React. And every screen that we're improving throughout Accelo as we go through, we will be rebuilding in that framework because of its higher performance and speed, and frankly, more modular nature than what we had been doing in the past. The second thing we did was we looked at how we get the data into the front end, whether it's React, Angular, doesn't matter. It's got to get the data somehow. And we realized that one of the things that's true of Accelo and all of our users is that you guys want flexibility, and no two accounts are the same. No two businesses are the same. So being able to represent your data in a way that a front end can consume and work with, that's confident and really high performing, meant being able to present that data in a structured way so that we're able to have maximum amounts of reuse, maximum amounts of flexibility, also all of the permissioning and rules. And what we use for that is in some ways React's cousin, another project called GraphQL. And GraphQL is a way of representing in an API, really readable, almost self-documented fashion, what the data is that the front end, in this case React, a bit above the waterline, is going to present. Now, it's all well and good to have a nice way to show information that's really powerful, easy to develop with, and high performing. We also, and it's great to be able to pull that through from Graph, but the data itself needs to live persistently in a storage location, which for us is a database. We use the AWS product Aurora, and the application we use for that is MySQL compatible. So we realized that being able to join together almost any column from various object types with stacks of customization of custom fields and relationships between, tasks and tickets and projects and clients and all of that stuff really meant going a lot further than the way that we'd done things in the past when it came to our query methods. Because the previous query methods were more like individually tuned and specialized, but not sufficiently flexible, and frankly, not high performing enough as we scale. Our customers are logging like 1.2 million hours a month worth of work in our product. Like it's extreme. So we just knew that we needed to be able to have a better way to do it. So we actually completely rebuilt our architecture from basically zero up to deliver this new custom list functionality, as we call it internally. And no more than that, this is the engine that's going to power the rest of the application as we continue to make improvements to view screens, to other list screens that haven't had the upgrade yet, and other parts of the product as well, because the performance is just so much better. The line performance, the delivery from the server to the browser is 10x what it was in the old list screen by using this new technology stack. And it also, frankly, makes it a heck of a lot easier for our developers to do their job. Now, given the impact of this and the fact that so many of our clients have just been so supportive of what we do here at Accelo and how we support their businesses, we thought it was actually a good idea to share some of this behind the scenes in a bit more detail. So if you're curious, head over to our blog and you can see a blog post that we put together, which outlines a bunch of stuff that's kind of geeky. Some of it might be a little bit squinty, but we really wanted to, share some information with folks as well so they could see, if they're curious, what's going on there. Now, if you're not curious, don't worry. And I'm sorry I wasted 5 minutes of your time, but for those that are, hopefully it was somewhat interesting and useful.
All right. Yeah, thanks for those insights, Geoff. So we also wanted to take some time to highlight the new Accelo community. And the goal of the community is to provide you all with a single location that you can go to stay in the know about, like everything to do with Accelo. And of course, to connect our customers together. So on our community, we have a support forum, which you can access to ask questions and get some advice from us and the rest of the community. There's also a developer forum where folks can, discuss, share ideas, and ask questions about what could be done with our open API. And then last, but certainly not least, we have our knowledge base. And this is a growing repository of help articles created by our support engineers, which you can access on your own if you ever run into anything and get stumped. So with that being said, we highly recommend that everyone goes to community.accelo.com to register and be a part of our growing community.
One thing you said there, Alec, that I think is worth reinforcing too, is this is a way for our users to connect with each other. You guys are doing very similar things and facing similar challenges in your business. And so whether it's about, suggestions on better ways to hire, other ways that you face challenges in your business and in your profession, feel free to make use of that community to share insights, to ask questions and ask for help. It's so delightful to see our clients, who are great, great people, helping each other out as peers. Speaking of help as well, we are putting a lot of our focus and energy into the support forum as part of this community. So all of our team that is sitting there, responding to emails that go to support@accelo.com today, are now turning their attention first and foremost to that support forum, because answering a question there helps other people to get answers in a very real-time fashion, even if they have the same question sort of 6 months later. The fact that it's been asked and we've been able to answer it and then build up a full knowledge base article with screenshots and maybe a video just helps to enrich and accelerate the support and the development and the learning experience for all of our users. So definitely make strong use of that community. It has so much potential, and the team is super excited and very active in participating there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that, Geoff. And on top of that, Accelo now offers premium support, which can be accessed directly from the product via our live chat feature. So this allows you to get real-time responses from our highly trained support engineers. In addition to live chat, we also offer scheduled phone calls and a 2-hour response time SLA. So to learn more about premium support, please reach out to us at success@accelo.com. And then going off of that, don't forget about our expert services sessions that are available to all Accelo customers. And expert services range in, whatever it is you're looking for assistance on, but it can also include topics that take what we covered today even further. So for example, that can be things like configuring workflows, statuses, and custom fields so that you can use them for list filters and columns, best practice navigation advice to improve team efficiency and save you time when you're working in the system. And then also, we could provide assistance setting up automations and triggers to really streamline your processes moving forward. So if you're interested in finding out more about expert services, you can email success@accelo.com, and an account manager such as myself will arrange a 30-minute, no obligation scoping call to really dig in and understand your challenges, and then propose some recommended sessions and propose some plans to resolve them. So you can find more information about this on our Success Services webpage, and for reference, the website is www.accelo.com/resources/services. And we'll go ahead and share this in the chat now for you.
I also want to reinforce how valuable these expert services sessions are. We do them because we really want to help our clients to succeed. And as your business continues to grow, as you potentially add more people to your team that are coming in having not had the benefit of training when they first implemented Accelo, or maybe it's that there's some functionality that you maybe didn't light up or really lean into when you first got started because you were happy to focus maybe on the sales and projects pieces, but retainers and tickets, or maybe the request inbox isn't an area you've really taken advantage of yet. These expert services are a fantastic way for any of our users to be able to get up and running quickly, because frankly, you guys have probably got better things to do. Your time is more valuable than having to work things out on your own, even if we do have an incredible knowledge base and help guide. So being able to work with someone like Alec, who knows the product backwards and takes the time to understand your challenges, your business, your needs, and can advise you on the best way to do something, is a really, really smart investment of time and frankly, not that much money. So if you have any element at all where you're like, I wonder if I'm using this the best way I can, or I wonder if Accelo can help with insert business challenge here, just drop our team a line, success@accelo.com, and we'll have a chat with you about it. And if it turns out that we can't help because what you're looking for is something that's outside of our wheelhouse, we'll tell you as well. So yeah, definitely take advantage of that. It's been super popular, especially during the last 12 months of the pandemic, as folks have been trying to work out how to do more with less, whether it's less people, less time, or less resources. It's just been a really, really valuable thing that has just gone from strength to strength. So if you haven't taken advantage of it yet, I strongly encourage you to do so. 30 minutes to have a chat is a pretty small, ask for the benefit you'd be getting.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely good to note on that, Geoff. So, yeah, good stuff. So I think with that being said,
I think Alex lost his network. Either that or I have. So we might jump into Q&A. I'm sure Alec will come back soon. It's the joy of all this working remotely. We've got a question here from Cassandra about how to prioritize your tasks. That's actually something that we're working on in the not too distant future, Cassandra, to give you the options to choose those prioritizations. And that will then flow through into some upgraded and improved interfaces for things like our task board too. So keep an eye out for that one. If you haven't yet, add your name to the list of folks that are asking for that in our ideas forum. That way you'll be able to see, as we're working on it, where we are. And also if we've got some stuff we want to share before it goes live, you'll be able to see it as well there. In terms of next questions we've got here, and if you do have some other questions, feel free to ask them here. Another question is like, is there a way to see how many hours in total I'm spending on my project or task per day? There's a couple of ways to handle that one, Amandeep. The best way for that would probably, because there's a few different ways you could be looking at it. You could be looking at it as a team, or you could be looking at it as an individual. And I'm not too sure from your question there. The best bet would probably be to answer that one by emailing our support team, or even better, going to community.accelo.com and asking that question in the support forum, because you're probably not the only one who'll have that question. And the great thing about the support forum is we can then answer your question with a lot more detail and verbosity and time, because of the benefit that it comes from being able to answer that for everyone else as well.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. I had a little bit of internet problems there, so I dropped. I'm sorry about that.
We picked up and kept rolling, so that's great.
All right.
Trying to see, we've got a couple of other questions here. Martin had a question about our classic lists and asked whether or not more features will be added from those to the new list screens. And the general answer to that one is yes, Martin. It won't be completely the same. Those folks who are eagle-eyed will know that our classic lists, which you can actually access if you didn't notice it, you can just go to companies here and access the classic list, and then you get the older ones. The question was really, are the features coming back? Some of them are going to be a little tricky because they're designed to work over 2 lines. Each of those classic list screens is really a designed thing where we chose specifically where to put the pixels and what to show. So we've got to try and end up in a world which has maximum flexibility and as much visual delight and support as possible. And it's a balance there. So things like flood bars, I think you've asked specifically about earned value versus invoice and things like that. Those are things we're working on. So hopefully that's going to be, not too far away. Also had a question here from Lorvi about other things like quotes, and other folks are asking about assets and activities. There's other objects in Accelo that haven't had the new list treatment yet. And the answer is yes, that's coming. All of our lists will be moving to this new format. We've just got to do more of that work at the database engine, at the GraphQL layer, and then to create and deliver those visually in the application as well. So more work to do that as well together. I think that's probably about all that we have in terms of questions there that we can answer handily here. There was one more question, which is semi-related. It's about the reports module. So for those folks who haven't seen it, it's the ability inside of Accelo to actually be able to go through and see a series of reports that we have built as dashboards from a business intelligence perspective. And Josh has asked the question about, is there an ability to customize some of these guys? The answer to that question is no, not at the moment. These are embedded reports. So the process of creating them requires a full editing or authoring tool. So it is a bit of a process to deliver. And I'm not sure, this one might not work because I'm in a test account here. So we'll see if this will load up. I didn't test this before we ran, and this is very much a test account. Oh yeah, here it is. It's just first time it runs, it has to do a few permission creation behaviors. These are configurable using these controls across the top here. So these are the only bits that are interactive. We are looking at options to enable clients to create their own complete dashboards at some point in the future, but it's not something that we're, imminent on. And the large reason for that is the interface is actually quite complicated. So, we've got a team that's done a lot of work to be able to build these reports for you. And just, sort of throwing something over the fence and hoping for the best is not generally going to work so well. If you do have suggestions, feedback, questions, or anything specific about these reports, The ideas forum is another perfect place to do that using the feedback link in the bottom left of any screen in the application. All right, I think there's one more question here. Yeah, I think the question here was just another one about this reports module, and the question is, if I have questions, where do I direct them? And I think probably the best way to do that is either if it's specific to something that maybe looks like it's a bug, or you're not sure what the definition of something like billable hours is, like if it's a how question, please, I'd recommend using the community. You can upload screenshots, you can do all sorts of cool stuff there. So go to community.accelo.com. If, however, the question is, oh, you know, I'd like to make some feedback and suggest that you add another part to this dashboard or give me another control across the top here, then the best way to handle those, like I wish it would or I wish you could, then put those into the feedback area. So if it's how does this work, go to our community and use the support forum there. If it's I wish it would or an idea, then go to our feedback or ideas forum. All right, I don't know if you're still with us, Alec. Tough timing on that one from the schedule, from an internet perspective, but we're pretty much out of time for now. There are some questions we didn't get to yet. We'll look to follow up with those after the webinar. Thanks everyone so much for coming along today. It was great to have you. We hope you're finding value from our new, completely rebuilt engine. And like I said, in addition, we to our information about the architecture, which might be a bit on the geeky side. If you're wanting to feed a little bit more, if you're in a geek, definitely check out what we've been able to do to improve the performance of Accelo by 25% so far in the last couple of months. We've got some really cool graphs, some extra details about what we've done, and some of the impacts and performance, where generally speaking, lower numbers are better, because generally lower numbers are either lower levels of load or less time for something to load. So definitely check that out. It's also on our blog and definitely worth a look. All right, without any further ado, we'll let everyone get back to their day. I'm sure everyone's pretty busy. Enjoy your day wherever you are in the world, and thanks so much for joining our webinar. Till next time, bye.